Om Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatam aham vande Paramananda Madhavam. So our task was to look into the three chapters. The chapter, Our Demand and Need from the Gita, Need and Demand from the Gita, the Divine Teacher and the Human Disciple. It is approximately 25, 28 pages, three chapters. It's not so much, and it is printed in big script, so it's not very dense, yes, page by page. And still it is very dense in meaning. So I will just share with you some my insights I read them again fresh and new. And I must tell you that the impression is again very beautiful and very different from what I had before. First of all, I can clearly see that Sri Aurobindo insists in the first chapter, Our Demand and Need from the Gita, is he wants us to be proactive, creative. He wants us to apply this knowledge to our life. It is of that value to us. It is not of value of academic knowledge or religious studies of some kind, belonging to some immemorial past or prehistoric times or any other type of studies. Spirituality as such, as subject, philosophy as subject. It's not our purpose. Our purpose is to find an inspiration, a fresh look at ourselves and the world, and to use this knowledge, this insight, for building up a new understanding of ourselves and the world. As Sri Aurobindo usually says, self-knowledge and world knowledge, these two major constituents of our search. Yes, both are necessary and both are somehow interestingly interwoven and interactive. This is my fresh impression from the first chapter. Do you have any other views, any other insights? Please, if you have, please share. If you have read these chapters, or browsed through them. Yes, Marta?
One thing that is so impressive from my point of view is the emphasis on action, and how, we know from studying Sri Aurobindo that his perspective is in integral yoga is karma yoga, is work and action, and not, well, the threefold path, of course, but not in order to leave the world, but to transform the world. And you can see this, the origin of this thinking in the Gita. It can seem foundational to that, in that when Arjuna is asking for practical guidance and Krishna is advising him in that manner that we'll get to. I don't want to spill too many beans, but until we get to that later part.
Right. Yeah,
it is pragmatic. It is practical. It is, Sri Aurobindo is telling us that it's not for leaving the world and being absorbed into higher consciousness, but it's for action in life.
Right. You are referring to the human disciple already, chapter where he is actually exposing all that Arjuna is not a thinker, not a philosopher. He is not looking for knowledge even. He is looking for the right action, for dharma. And dharma is his purpose. He wants to have a proper dharmic standpoint, from which he can act. He lost that dharmic point and he needs it back. He asks for it. And instead, Krishna feeds him with knowledge of Sankhya and yoga. And he is very disappointed. Sri Aurobindo is very humorously describing that there. You could feel his humor, very subtle humor. It's not immediately visible. Because without knowledge, actually, you cannot act in the world in that manner as he wants him to act. Yes, thank you for this sharing. Yes, this insistence on action, the teaching, the revelation in the midst of the battlefield. Yeah, there's something unthinkable in a way. It's not in the meditative silent space the teacher reveals some higher knowledge to his disciple. It is in the midst of the fight and crisis. Yes, this deep, profound psychological crisis. Hello, Siegfried.
So for me, what really kind of like called me was where it says that the figure of Krishna becomes, as it were, the symbol of the divine dealings with humanity. There is that line, and the action in which the divine figure moves is the whole wide action of man in life. And I thought that was extraordinary. It kind of woof, like I saw this kind of like, the whole of humanity, that was a great line for me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Veronica.
I'll just add something too, and it's a little bit along the lines of what you opened with, Vladimir, which when I read it, and I actually read it twice, and what kept coming out and in deeper and deeper was this whole notion of living truth. So not static knowledge and static truth, which there is, but empowering that static knowledge by living it. And when you live it and embrace it, then you add power. It's not just chit, it's chit tapas. Right now, it's dynamic in time and space and in your particular life. And I was thinking a little bit of the notion of Rita in the Rig Veda, and I've always thought of that as dynamic, evolving, always changing. Because it's in time and space. And one of the things personally, we have these experiences, right? So this is experiential, one can say subjective, but even when we get into the realm of experience and subjective, at least for me, I can cling to those experiences, right? And I can compare everything else to that experience. And in that comparison and bringing in that mental focus, and we lose the here and now and the empowerment and embracing of a new truth, right? Because truth is constantly unfolding and changing and revealing. And if we're kind of had a wonderful experience of any sort, at least for me, you want to embrace it and hold on to it rather than letting it go and instead reaching for the next version or vision of truth in the life. So this whole dynamic unfolding, living in the moment, totally free to be open to the next portion of truth that can come into life. It meant everything, because I always read from the mental standpoint rather than the experience. If we don't experience what we read, there's no power to change our life or affect our life or those around us. So that was really impactful for me.
Wonderful. Did you notice that the first chapter, actually his position, Sri Aurobindo's position, demand and need from the Gita, is of the same kind? it needs the action, the enlightenment now, in this moment of time, in this specific way. This truth has to reveal itself in the dynamic form. We don't want to know some static truth which is always there in some kind of mental form. We need a dynamic presence or experience of it, constantly changing, constantly adherence to this experience, constantly clinging to the truth and discovering it anew. This is his position, yeah? And that's why he looks at scriptures from this point of view also. Scriptures for him are the means, the tools of this self-discovery and action in the world, and not something you have to worship or as a book separately from the world, or like a religious worship, cult worship. It's not a cult. It's a guidance to life. Yes. And that is what he is promoting. Beautiful. Thank you, Radha, for this insight. Bill, you wanted to say something.
I love what Radha said about living truth. That seemed to ring a bell with me. And I, the Gita, I mean, it's in some way for me a journey of just growing up. I mean, and getting some maturity, spiritual maturity as well. I mean, I hear these themes of how do I surrender fully without becoming dependent either. These kind of contradictions. And I love the love. I love the devotion. And I just wish I could drop it all off and say one good prayer and pick up my enlightenment, like at the laundromat, all folded and nice. And it's not that. And it's been an ever journey of where does grace, love, my actions, where do they meet? And how do I just keep growing up and getting there? Because I fall short, obviously, in some ways, and I do very well in other ways. And I also heard Aurobindo speaking about the avatar, saying, "Look, we're not going to argue about how blue Krishna really was. It's about us right now and living this and being in that journey." Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you, Bill. It's really that we have to dare to step into the unknown, and we have to dare to rediscover the truth anew every time. And if we don't do that, and we are kind of clinging to something we experienced before, even it was very luminous, very true to us before, yes, and that becomes an obstacle. Actually, it becomes a hindrance of some kind, because it is no more fresh and true perception of things. And to dare to step into that unknown, to be able to rediscover the truth in a new fashion, new words, new perception. This is something we have to learn. We have to learn to be constantly alive, not to fall short into some kind of, cult or some kind of form, which gives us security. Of course, this cult gives us security, repetition of the unknown, which is true, which is right. I repeat, and I start judging others, demanding from others some behavior of the similar kind. I stop seeing the truth. I become determined by my convention, or that dharmic convention. Why Sri Krishna at the end of the Gita says, leave all the dharmas away, and come to me. I will free you from every trouble. This is something that there is a truth alive within us. There is a true presence within our hearts, which we can find and can follow in our life. As they say in these Disney movies, follow your heart. Yes, follow your heart. Right. Great. Gilbert, would you like to say a few words on the Gita, on these chapters, if you like? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I didn't actually.
Yeah.
I wasn't last week, and I didn't actually know I was
Okay. No,
just from a specific interpretation of the Gita. I'll have to get that. I'll be more prepared next time.
No problem.
You're going to open next time, Gilbert. We're glad you're here. So glad you could make it.
Yes, it's very nice.
Thank you.
Here.
Nice to see you all. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, Robert, I can see.
Yes, I really appreciated the fact that what you have mentioned. I think a number of people have mentioned the flexibility of Sri Aurobindo's system and his wideness. And is this the first time that at this point in these early chapters, does he in fact recognize that the avatar is within us? It's the innermost truth in us that we can contact. Is it a symbol of that? Is Krishna a symbol of the innermost truth that we can contact? And is that a new approach to spiritual growth that supersedes, well, which was different, should I say, from all the previous spiritual practices in India? The fact that the one can, instead of trying to move away from life and move away into some nirvana or greater truth beyond the earth, but to find it within yourself and act from that point of reference.
Yeah, well, it's as ancient as the Veda. Yes, so Sri Aurobindo mentions this in the chapter, saying that in the Gita follows this vision of avatarhood, which in the West is more difficult to find. Yeah, in the Western Abrahamic religions, though we can see it in Christianity. Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Through me you can come to my Father, and so on. You seated in the heart of every man. Very similar to Krishna. In even this name, Christ and Krishna, somehow it's very weird, but they are very sounding similar in a way. And nobody knows what Christ is. By the way, Christ is given in the scriptures of Greek scriptures, and it is not very clear what Christ means. Yeah? So there's some mystery about Christ and Krishna, and the same story, he was born as the king of man and all the kids had to be killed. It's very similar mythology in a way. Something very weird about this both. So in a way, you can see that this myth of being born among man, the king born, the Son of God who is seated in the heart of every man, yes, is the vision of course of India, and most probably partially it is present in Christianity. Because maybe Christ was there in Kashmir, we do not know. There are stories about this, that he came to India and he was an adept of that knowledge, and that's why he was actually considered to be like a blasphemy for the religion he came into Judaism, yes, traditional Judaism, Moses, and his vision of the reality as transcendental Godhead who is never coming to us close. He is always beyond. And here suddenly there is someone who speaks, me and my Father are one. Through me you can come to my Father. He speaks things which Judaism could not accept, and actually for that he was crucified. When he came, when he was, I do not know why I drifted to Christianity. Maybe because there are many people with Christian background here and could also identify that need for the divinity being in the heart of every man. And, that psychic being. I realized that when Jesus spoke about himself as being present in the heart of every man and the only Son of God, because the psychic being, our soul, is the only Son of God. There are many creatures of different kind. There are many powerful beings in the world, but they are not direct children of the divine, as it were. They are indirect. But directly to be his representative, it must be a soul. So it makes totally sense to me. So there is no contradiction between Christianity in that form and Krishna, who says that I am in the heart of every man. For some, it may sound like a blasphemy again, what I say, for Christians especially, and maybe for Hindus, saying that Christianity and Hinduism are similar in approach of the heart embodiment. And Jesus was an avatar, as Krishna was. Sri Aurobindo confirms even that. And what avatar is about is that it acts, as it is said, it acts directly from the source of knowledge, not indirectly. He is not a receiver of some kind of influence or some kind of inspiration. He acts from that center upon everything. And that is the avatar. He has full awareness of the truth and can see how to apply it in particular context. Okay, wonderful to share some thoughts. Some other thoughts maybe? Kim, you didn't say anything. Then Ashish. Ashish has a presentation of these two. I would like to hear it. It will be a crown for us. So, yeah.
Well, I can say I really appreciated how the first chapter was written as a guide to how to read the Gita, how to interpret it, and why. I found it to be really exciting, and just to kind of set the table. And everything you've said at the beginning is it felt the same. But I've written down my favorite line from the first chapter is, "We do not belong to past dawns, but to the noons of the future." And I loved reading that after, there was some description of the past, right? Of the getting help from the truth of the past, breaking out again from behind the veil, but also combined with the needing the firm ground of the future, from the future. And it kind of, for me, expanded the present moment, because the action is now in this present moment, but you can also look at it as everything is the present moment. You've got the past with us and the future. So almost like a different dimension. So I thought that was very powerful, and was very happy.
Yes,
Thank
wonderful, wonderful. You refreshed the same impression for me that, yes, he is going beyond three-color drishti, yes, beyond the three times, so to say. He combines three-color drishti, the vision of three times. And for him, he says very little in the Gita which belongs to the proper cultural past, yes. Even those few moments there which are in the Gita do not belong to this eternity, the truth of infinite truth. Even those moments can be interpreted in that light, in the deeper or vaster light. And yes, we do not belong to the dawns of the past. We belong to the noons of the future. What a statement. One sentence. We do not belong to the dawns of the past. And these were the dawns of the past. And they lead us, that light leads us to the noons of the future. We need that light. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that we have to be stuck to that past and live only in that time by those measures of and by that culture. which is usually the attempt. People try to come back to the conventional age and try to recreate the formation. Yes. And you, Ruthie, would you like to share some thoughts, maybe? Yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I'm jumping ahead into the third chapter, but one thing that struck me, it was kind of, for me, it was like aha moment, but there was a passage in there that talked about it was a quote where Arjuna just dropped his bow and arrow and didn't want to pick it up. And it reminded me of a passage in the Upanishads about the analogy of the bow and the arrow and shooting towards devotion, the arrow shooting to devotion. So anyway, it's probably not making sense, but it was just kind of an aha moment where the Upanishads and the Gita match up. What's the message in the Upanishads anyway.
Beautiful. Yes, because the bow and the string, when it is, tight, it creates the sound, ding, and it is, you are in tune, and you can put the arrow of your devotion or your love or to the target you want to reach, and so you can, with your well-tuned instrument, you can realize the higher truth. But here he lost this, he threw it away. And so he had to pick it up and to start tuning himself to the truth. Yeah, thank you, Ruthie.
You say it so much better. I see Siegfried has a chat there, Vladimir, because he probably does low internet. I have to admit that Sri Aurobindo's English is a bit difficult to read for my level, but it's easier than reading Savitri, so I think I'll get used to it. I am surprised by the approach of presenting the word of God through Krishna in an epic and warlike event, and this is a challenge for me, but I understand that this is an extreme scenario in which everything is at stake and you have to bet hard. Arjuna either gives himself fully to God or remains in his material consciousness with his attachments. I am interested in the aspect of Tantra that is mentioned in the essay, and I'm looking forward to reading between the lines in the Gita about it. Yeah, I found that very interesting too, the reference to Tantra. But I don't know if you wanted to comment or anybody wanted to comment on his chat.
Right. Yeah, well, there is much to say, of course, with them. There were so many thoughts coming through the mind, so I do not know which to catch to bring in. Maybe, yes, if you have some ideas about that, let me see the chat. There was something in between which was, yes, the warlike event, yes, epic. Why that war? There's few words I wanted to say about this. You see, Sri Aurobindo mentions that Sri Krishna is mentioned in the Chandogya Upanishad. So he was a historical figure. It wasn't some, kind of imagination or some kind of mythological figure. He is mentioned as son of Devaki in Upanishad. Chandogya, which is quite ancient and uniquely, it's a unique Upanishad because it's a very rare type of knowledge which belongs to Kshatriya tradition. Now, here there's something interesting because this warlike and Kshatriya tradition and Chandogya is not Brahmanic literature. It belongs to actually the lineage of the kings. By the way, in the Gita, Sri Krishna also mentions the lineage of the kings. Yes, he revealed this knowledge to to Vivasvat, and Vivasvat, the Lord of the Sun, revealed it to Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku is the first royal person, king of the solar dynasty, and he gave it, and so on. And it was lost in time. So if you look into this kind of lineage of the king's knowledge, not of the Brahmins, you will find that they are less interested in knowledge per se, in pure sense. They are more interested in application, in that what we call dharma. You know, when dharma was framed, according to Sri Aurobindo, in the typal age, the first principles, psychological principles, were defined within the typal age, yes, after symbolic age. And then in conventional, finally, they were totally kind of fixed. So this particular way of being, of behavior, of truth, which became more and more conventional, more and more conceptual as an idea, less living truth, more thinking truth. Yeah? So to which we have to adjust our behavior and our ways of living and being. This is something which Kshatriyas represent. And that's why he is asking for it, for this guidance. Tell me one thing which will lead me to the higher truth. Yes. Don't tell me all the Sankhya and yoga and bewilder my mind. Tell me what to do. And Sri Krishna is feeding him with knowledge again and again, slowly trying to dissolve that need for action without finding the real truth within. He wants him to open up, because it's not enough to act properly according to Dharma anymore. He has to find the truth within, and consulting that inner truth, act. And that's what he wants from him. That's the whole exercise. And Arjuna doesn't understand this from the beginning. For the first few chapters, he resists. All the time he asks for guidance, for action. Shadhimam tvam prapannam. Teach me or guide me, who found refuge in you. You are my teacher. Tell me what to do. He tells him to fight, and he doesn't want to fight. He cannot, because he doesn't see the inner connection, the inner truth yet. But slowly he will come to that knowledge. Sri Krishna will bring it step by step. That's what he does. That's what was mentioned by the action and the war field. That is more Kshatriya, king's knowledge. It's a royal knowledge, different type. We have this type of Agni Vidya, there's Panchagni Vidya. Panchagni Vidya is a knowledge of Kshatriyas, secret knowledge, which was revealed only to the kings. And that was revealed first time to the Brahmin, and Brahmin brought this knowledge. Chandogya speaks about this. And there, Sri Krishna is mentioned, son of Devaki. He was the disciple of Ghora Angirasa, of Angiras Rishi Ghora. The Ghora means terrible Angiras. Quite an... Yes, Gilbert, you wanted to say something. I saw your hand. Sorry.
Well, I was just wondering, is this is Arjuna having a hard time accepting the actions that he has to take as a warrior, as a Kshitra? Yeah. Is he having that? Is that part of the conflict that he's having with Krishna? Not conflict, but the that which he wants Krishna to tell him what to do, and Krishna, I think, as I understand what's being said, is that Krishna is saying, okay, well, you'll understand what to do when you get to the source of when you get to the source, you'll know that you are a warrior, and the action that you're to do is not to go study a book and philosophize or teach a class. You're here to, chop the heads off your relatives.
No, not like that. Not exactly that way. But he tells him, yes, you're Kshatriya, why are you so afraid to fight? You knew about everything. He knew beforehand who will be on that side, who on this side. He knew everything. Only in the moment of, and he asked Sri Krishna to put the chariot in between the two armies, in a very, as Sri Aurobindo says, in an arrogant way, because he just wanted, as a Kshatriya, to see the faces of those whom he has to fight, who are opposing him in this battle. He didn't expect that it would have such a huge, deep impact on him. And then when he saw his teachers, his relatives, his uncles, his gurus on that side, looking at him, those whom he loved most, they are here, they're there to fight with him and to be killed by him in this battle. That was a moment of despair when he fell down and proposed himself to be a victim of this battle, to be killed by them rather than to fight with them. So that was the moment of crisis. And in that moment of crisis, Sri Krishna comes with his knowledge. And then he is ready. He is ready to look for the truth, not to accept it as dharmic formation, which he has to follow. He still, as a Kshatriya, he asks for it. He wants it. Tell me one thing which leads me to the good and I will do it. So whatever it is. But Sri Krishna doesn't want that. Doesn't want him to accept whatever it is. He wants him to accept the truth. And that has to be discovered. Yes, Ashish, we are waiting for your presentation. Sorry to be so long. It just, we didn't know how it would turn out.
No problems. It was quite interesting. Please let me.
Yeah, please go ahead.
You can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to briefly talk about chapter 2 and chapter 3. And I apologize in advance if there's an error in my understanding or presentation, so please bear with me. It was difficult for me to do this sequentially, one followed by the other, because the chapters and the teachings are so beautifully intertwined. And okay. So my synthesis of these two chapters was the three important characteristics of Bhagavad Gita, which literally translates to the voice of the divine or the song of the God. And these three make the Bhagavad Gita stand out and in a way peculiar compared to other spiritual texts. And they are the context, and then the actors who are involved, the teacher and the student. So we've spoken a bit about the context, which is this battleground. And Sri Aurobindo also raises this question, and that's being debated amongst a few scholars, if Gita was indeed part of the epic Mahabharata, or it was something like an afterthought to gain popularity and authority to the Gita text. So that question he raises. And I researched a bit on that. Logically, it looks very strange that there's this epic battle that's being fought, which is called the war to end all wars. And it also marked a transition between two eras in Hinduism, from the Dwapar Yuga to the Kali Yuga. And I also tried to kind of put a number to the scale of this battle. Wikipedia says it's about 4 million, and somebody has done a detailed calculation and said it's 4.7 million soldiers who are fighting. So here we are, two armies ready to fight, and in between we have a dialogue which extends to 700 verses and gives all kind of meanings to the world, the creation and life. So that raises a doubt if Gita is an integral part of the Mahabharata or if it's another document by itself. But what is interesting and more insightful is that the context makes Gita a more practical spiritual text. So it's just not a philosophy, but it's something that we as human beings can relate to. There's a similar analogy of the chariot and the human soul and the divine riding towards enlightenment, but it's explained very differently in the Vedas. It's more towards the concept of knowledge, not so much towards action, which is the main point in the Bhagavad Gita. And to me, this also highlights the shift that's been happening from the Vedas, which were more symbolic, to the Upanishads, where the message changed to a more metaphysical way. And then the epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, where it became narrative involving human characters. And overall leading to the shift happening towards rise of individualism. And we spoke a bit about it in the last study session. So the context is that this battle is about to begin, and Arjuna, who is the greatest warrior of the time, is ready to fight. Krishna, he is his charioteer, driving his chariot, and the war is just about to begin. And then the spiritual crisis happens. And Arjuna faces this hesitation, this moral dilemma. He's torn between the ethical code of valuing physical life. And some of us have had that discomfort that how can you be guided to start a war and to kill people? But as a Kshatriya, as a warrior, he's being told from his inside that that's his dharma, that's what he has, that's his mission. And it is at this time, at this critical moment of crisis, that the message of Gita is being delivered. So the second aspect is the teacher, the divine, and that's projected as God's human incarnation, the avatar. So Krishna is, he has a historical significance in the Mahabharata. So there's a character of Krishna that's developed and that plays different roles. He has stories related to his childhood, his killing the seven-headed serpent. So he's basically an avatar of Vishnu. Vishnu is one of the Hindu trinity, the preserver god. And the way this is being presented is God is present in all living beings. And when a moment of difficulty arises for the mankind, if an existential crisis is about to start, then God takes form of a human body to preach the human beings and help them be guided to the right direction and avoid that existential crisis. So we have in the Gita, the avatar gives the picture of the complete universe, which is called the Vishwarupam Darshan, all the facets of creation, every aspect of knowledge. So it's just not reincarnation of in human form, but it's a full and conscious descent of the divine, which is what makes this message so powerful. And this is when Arjuna sees the knowledge, he has his moment of enlightenment, and then he decides to follow his dharma. So the other thing which I also thought about while reading these chapters is, how much of it is personal, or because there's also a message of detachment in the Gita. So there is a human angle. Krishna and Arjuna are two characters of the story of Mahabharata. They've had a relationship. In fact, Arjuna is married to Krishna's sister in the epic. And then there is also, so that's one aspect of it, the characters and their relationship. And then there is a concept of the soul, which is the inner divine and the supreme, the Brahman. And the message is that the soul inside each of us is trying to connect to the larger Brahman, the divine, and that is what will lead to liberation or moksha. So there is a message of detachment, but that message comes through action. And through this action, development happens, reincarnation happens through a series of rebirths, till the time the soul is able to get the knowledge, get enlightened, and finally attain what is called moksha or liberation. And this is also an overall change in direction towards the bhakti movement, where one prays to the divine and prays for true knowledge and liberation closer to the end of life. The third is the student, the human disciple. So it's not any student, it's not any character, but it's one student, one disciple who's chosen by the avatar, and at the time when the student is ready for knowledge, because there's a lot of narrative about the characters and interactions of Krishna and Arjuna. And in none of those interactions, there is any hint that so much of divine knowledge is going to be revealed at the time of the battle. That's more a storyline where the human side, the clever side, the political side, the warrior side of the characters, respective characters are revealed. And Arjuna, he is a human, so they talk a little bit about his personal life, his professional grooming as the archer. He's a character that's very practical, very pragmatic, and he obeys to the highest standards of the sattvic gunas. But when he needs to take this decision of starting the battle, all of this fails him, and his confidence is completely shaken. So this great warrior falls to his feet. He lets go of his bow and arrow, and he is willing to let go of his Kshatriya dharma, and then even depart to the forest to ruminate, to try and understand what his true mission is. So it is at that moment of the biggest crisis that he faces that he's ready to receive the knowledge. And at that time, Krishna reveals his divine avatar and is ready to impart the teaching of the Gita when the students' worldly talents and worldly capabilities have completely failed him. So the other aspect of this interaction between the student and the teacher is the dialogue. So it's not a knowledge which is being imparted out of character, out of context, but it happens through a question and answer mode. So Arjuna keeps on asking questions. He's a pragmatic man. He demands decisive action. And it's said, speak one thing decisively by which I can attain to what is the best. So he doesn't want to know about yoga, about samkhya, about philosophy. He just wants to know what is the action that he should take. But then through a series of discussions and answers to Arjuna's questions, and over these 700 verses, Krishna, the divine teacher, gradually takes him to the path of enlightenment, and then reveals the whole knowledge. And this, the last part on my slide, was the most powerful message to me, because it brings together all the learnings of the Gita in three phrases. For the action must be performed, the world must fulfill its cycles, and the soul of human being must not turn back in ignorance from the work it is here to do. I was also reading another article about Oppenheimer's interview after the atomic bomb was used, and he was questioned as to why he supported this initiative, and he quotes the Bhagavad Gita there. And I was wondering, does Gita justify all actions? And that was a main question in my mind for past several years. And this has helped me understand that in a larger context, because it's not just the action, it's the timing of the action. When the complete knowledge is imbibed, only then the action is true, it's justified, and it takes us closer to the divine. And then once Arjuna gets the knowledge, he sees the Vishwarupam of Lord Krishna. He awakens to the meaning of true action, and that's where the battle begins. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. This is really very nice, very concise and to the point. Nothing is beyond or away from the straight point. And I like that you quoted from the human disciple, that you took the quotations from Sri Aurobindo, these last three major points that we have to, the action has to be done, the soul is to be discovered, and a human being should not turn away. By the way, you can see this three major transcendental divine, cosmic divine, and the individual divine in the heart, seated in the heart. You can see these three going through all the time. That's what Krishna represents. He wants to engage Arjuna exactly in that inner self. He wants his inner self to be discovered or recovered by Arjuna, and surrender that inner being to the divine will. That's what he wants from him. Once that is done, everything else will be fine. We are also kind of organizing now New Year, and we are thinking about these three movements of consciousness, yes, deepening, widening, and heightening. And these are the exactly three movements which Sri Krishna represents in the Gita. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Ashish. Very nice. Lovely.
Thank you.
If you have some questions to Ashish or to have some ideas, you got some insights, please share.
I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
So in the Gita, there has been some mentioning about the Sankhya, even though it doesn't follow the Sankhya. Like it takes. So I'm just wondering, like the Purusha and the Prakriti aspect. So does it have any consonance with the heaven and the earth that one talks about in the Vedas, and that is those two being united by the fire of Agni and the vital forces? So is there any relation between, because the Purusha is also like that immutable self, and the Prakriti like the earth susceptible to the three gunas, and the evolution is being proceeded by the psychic development or the inner divine. So is there any relation or consonance between that of the Vedas, of that heaven, earth and everything, and to this Purusha and Prakriti aspect?
Yes, definitely. In a way, when we speak about, Sri Aurobindo mentions this in these chapters about the relation between a human disciple and the divine teacher. What are these two, yes, and how they are connected and represented in a different literature. In the Vedas, it is Kutsan, Girasa, and Indra, for example. The same relations, yes. Indra is driving a chariot to his heaven, to his heavenly home, to show to Kutsan, Girasa all the wonders of the divine mind and immortality. So the same we find in the myth of Nara and Narayana, as you know. Yes? This beautiful myth which is found everywhere in the Puranas and literature. This I was so impressed when I was younger, when I read this myth about Nara and Narayana. There was a very arrogant and very strong king. He was possessing the whole earth, and he wanted to know, is there someone who is stronger than him? And then he heard from someone that there was Nara and Narayana in the Himalayas somewhere living. So he decided to find them and to conquer them. Otherwise, he was not happy with his conquest of the whole earth. So he went with his army to Himalayas, and he met in the heights somewhere on the tops of the Himalayas. He met someone there who was walking as one man, and he asked him, "Who are you?" and he said, I am Nara. Oh, Nara, prepare to fight. So the whole army was made ready to fight, and all the arrows were put into the air, shooting into this one Nara. The whole army shot one Nara. And Nara took the blade of grass, some dry blade of grass, and threw into the air, and that blade of grass became the cloud of the arrows, which covered the whole arrows and the whole army, and everybody was killed. Only one king was standing in front of him. And he said, how come that you are so strong? He says, I am not strong. I am only Nara, but Narayana. And that was it. That was the whole story. What to say about Narayana if I am of this kind. So from that time, that king became the Bhakta of Narayana. It's a hyperbolization, of course, huge in Puranic stories, but it's a very significant vision of what Narayana could be, the universal soul, which is supporting all our souls, Naras. So this relation between the human soul, psychic being, and the universal soul, divine being, yes, is also known in the Vedas as Dvipad. Sri Aurobindo speaks about it. Dvipad and Chatushpad. We read that differently in the Veda. Dvipade, Chatushpade, Shamyo, may it be blessing for Dvipad and Chatushpad. Dvipad, two-legged, Chatushpad, four-legged. And four-footed means the animal for interpretation in the tradition, and two-footed means a human being. But Sri Aurobindo says Padam is not really a foot here. It is a level of consciousness or relations. So two relational one is the soul and the divine. This is the human being. And four relational is actually four levels of consciousness: physical, vital, mental, and supramental. All nature is built on these four. And that is Chatushpad. And in that sense, of course, you can immediately see that two-footed is something else. It is the relation of our soul to our source, to the universal soul. And these are, of course, well known in Bhakti movement, as you know them in Kabir songs or Mirabai songs. Yes, the relation of the beloved ones, how she sees him everywhere, in every form, in a tree, in human beings, in the sea, in the sky, in the rain, everywhere she sings and finds the beloved there. By the way, the whole 10th chapter is dedicated to Vibhuti Yoga, where Sri Krishna shows his presence in the nature, in all forms of nature. And that is that, to discover the beloved in nature, not only in the soul of man, but also everywhere, in every form. So this two, what you were saying, Purusha and Prakriti, are seen from the point of view of the psychic being and that being above the head, the universal unborn self, Jivatma and Antaratma. Not in the form of the Purusha, though Purusha is there, and Prakriti as it is here, but it is as a projection of Purusha into the midst of Prakriti, because only then Prakriti starts becoming active. She becomes active and she manifests the Purusha. Whenever he attends to her, projects into her the psychic being, Antaryami or Antaratman, then she becomes alive and she manifests all the worlds. So later in Sankhya, it is not spoken of the inner divinity anymore, inbuilt, so to say, within the Prakritis. We speak about Prakriti only and Purusha as if separately, because it becomes more and more philosophical view. So less important that element of the connectivity of the psychic flame within the heart and the unborn self above the head. They are connected.
Thank you very much. That's very beautiful. Thank you.
And by the way, for the mother, as if we know later, there was no difference between Purusha and Prakriti. And this is another kind of dimension which we have to see. This is the fundamental Vedic dimension of Diti and Aditi, two twin sisters, or Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti is the same Prakriti, only it manifests the divine in time and space. And that Paraprakriti is beyond time and space, Prakriti. So she didn't like this division on Purusha and Prakriti, which people so much they are fond of in India, especially, because Prakriti, Shakti, she is my Shakti, allows kind of, this kind of relations between man and woman, which is very ignorant and based on domination of men over women, which she didn't like at all. She didn't see the need in this distinction between Purusha and Prakriti because of that. Because Prakriti is nothing but his action, his power and consciousness, which manifests him here. And in the final realization, they will be one and the same, Ishvara and Shakti. They are not really different. Heaven and earth, equal and one. This is the answer to your question, heaven and earth. Heaven and earth, equal and one. They are from the beginning one and the same. And then in manifestation, they turn, so to say, heaven becomes above, earth becomes below, supports. So it is for the sake of manifestation. But in the highest heaven, in the supramental consciousness, they are one and the same. Oh, there are many more things. There will be, of course, the knowledge, the hidden knowledge, the secret knowledge in the 9th chapter, the king's knowledge, which we will have to attend and see that this world is actually within the divine, not the divine is within it. The whole world, the whole manifestation is embraced by the divine. It is everywhere, in everything. Only we don't see it. We don't know it yet.
I wanted to just say quickly, Ashish, thank you very much for your presentation. I enjoyed it. And it came alive, that whole descent of the divine, the darshan, always just enlightens. I just wake up, and I love it that you went there with that. And we call it Shakti, but I think we've been talking about it, grace, this anugraha, kind of all in different ways, and we'll continue to. So thank you very much, Ashish and Vladimir.
Vladimir, I had a question. This is Pratik. So I just want to know next week, so which pages or chapters are going to be read?
Yeah, the core of the Gita, the core teaching. We need to see into we have to combine all these elements of the disciple and the teacher and the demand, what we want, how we look at it, how we can use it. Now we have to see what is really offered. Yeah, the 4th chapter, 1 chapter.
So no passages in the Gita itself, but the 4th on essays on the Gita.
I have passages, by the way, prepared, but our kind of discussion went so freely and naturally, so I didn't come to my presentation, which is fine. It's not needed. Maybe we will collect those thoughts together and make one final at the end, like chapter by chapter, quintessential. It's kind of all interwoven into one sense or meaning or presence of some kind. Everything reveals everything after some time. And it's not just to mention one element. One element leads to another, and so on. It's kind of, it's more in the sense of opening or realization of some kind. So the knowledge is beyond the words. That's what I want to say. It's not within the words. Words are kind of making it's a tool, or these are instruments of, or this is the finger pointing to the truth, let us say like this. And if we feel the truth, then the finger worked, yes? If we want to only quote the finger, then it doesn't work. That's what he says in the first chapter.
I'm wondering, Vladimir, I too, like Bill Ashish, wanted to thank you so much for that presentation, and it really tied so nicely those first 3 chapters together and was very, very thoughtfully prepared. So,
if there are no other remarks, I will close with the mantra, if you don't mind. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santo Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you. Thank everyone.
Thank you.